Look, everything in Washington has been a lie.
Welcome to the Bon Robin channel. Prepare to be shocked awake. And we're off to another insightful ramble.
But I want to say that this show really only exists because of a couple of assholes. One of them is named Butch Robinson, also known as Bond Robin, and also known as Archbreach Simeon. And the other one is known as the Paleolithic philosopher Troglodyte. And what I mean by assholes is that's the kind of person you want shoulder to shoulder with you in war. You want a mean sumbitch. You want an asshole. Because a namby-pamby little pussy is going to cost you your life.
This is the greatest time to be alive. We are going to win. Truth warriors will succeed. We will absolutely run roughshod. We will vanquish. We will destroy. We will decimate. We will obliterate, ablate, bowdlerize, and amend permanently that of the deep state.
America needs its own demarxification program, and that demarxification program has to start with people like Frank Schaeffer and other white Marxists and communists as well, who do not love our hero Donald Trump, the loving, caring man who is our president. They must leave en masse and stop troubling decent, hard-working, moral American people.
But this right here, bullshit, okay?
We have adopted his lies instead of any truth baseline. The Republican Party is in hock to a third-rate, goofball, grifter, con man who would have only been successful in the United States from the mid-20th century on, when our literacy rate declined, television took over, and the whole culture became pornified on every fucking level. Sorry about the language. Thank you. My name is Frank Schaeffer.
But this right here, bullshit, okay?
When leftists aren't in control, violence is their response.
This is an addendum to the video that I made yesterday about the British Parliament trying to hype up war with Russia. I mean, just panting and panting, salivating like a rabid dog, wanting to attack Russia, demonizing Putin, claiming this attempted assassination with some not so rare gas nerve agent available 8 miles from where the man lives. I mean, made 8 miles from where the man lives, and they claimed that it was trucked across multiple borders, and let me tell you, if this was an intelligence psyop, active measures to take this man down, then the successor to the KGB should be called the Keystone GB, like Keystone Cops, like bumbling idiots, because it would take bumbling idiots to do what they did. And these people actually expect us to believe this shite, that this was a Russian action. Okay. I said yesterday, to understand this, that it's not about what you think it is. I mean, it is literally not what you think it is. They keep telling you Russian aggression, Russian aggression. I'm going to show you what the real Russian aggression is that makes the West hate Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is hated by the Luciferians in the West because he dared to say that comparing as equal a family, a married couple, man and woman with many children, to a homosexual relationship called marriage is insanity. He said in the West that faith in God is equal to faith in Satan. Just these two things are true. They are true, and show the absolute insanity of American and European culture and law. And how did we get to be there? How did we get to be there? I'm going to show you in just a second. If we try to protect our children from this insanity here in America, and it's even worse in Europe, in Britain, and the mainland, if we try to protect our children from this insanity here and in Europe, it is called an act of hate and mental illness. Mental illness. I mean, there it is, in the diagnostic and statistical manual that the psychologists, psychiatrists use to diagnose people. It's called homophobia. I'm not frightened of any gay on this earth. I am not frightened of any gay on this earth. But I detest the Antonio Gramsci Marxist LGBT XYZ BS agenda. You see, on the other hand, that old dog Putin dared to make propagandizing the LGBT XYZ BS agenda to children in Russia a felony. He will not allow that child abuse in Russia. And you people who think that the demonizing and the hope for conquest of Russia is about oil and other minerals, you're deluded. Yeah, there's an economic element. There's always an economic element. If Russia wasn't a wealthy country, a wealthy nation, they wouldn't be trying to destroy its culture like they have here in the U.S. and in Europe. It's not about oil. It's not about minerals. It is the perennial struggle of good versus evil, light versus darkness, the Spirit of Jesus Christ versus Lucifer. And until Trump, we were a huge force, in fact, the biggest force on the Luciferian side. That Luciferian force so far has only been weakened, anything but conquered. And the demonic world is flailing and writhing like an injured snake, flipping and flopping, and trying hope against hope to create World War III to save itself. And all of that insanity that you saw in the British Parliament with this absolutely ridiculous tale of the Russians sneaking some nerve agent across multiple borders to come and make some fellow and his daughter sick because they didn't succeed in killing them. I mean, it was a bungling action. And at this point, my own opinion, I don't have any evidence whatsoever that they were injured at all. Whether they're injured or not, whether they were made sick, it wasn't the Russians. I mean, that's just insanity. But as one of the British ambassadors, former ambassador to Uzbekistan, stated clearly, the scenario that fits is that it was an operation inside of Britain, in the West, inside the geopolitics of globalism, to help further the Russian narrative, to demonize Putin, to demonize Russia, because what they want is World War III. They want nothing better than to see the Christians of the West, what of us are left, and the Christians of Russia slaughtering one another in the tens of millions. That's their goal. These are Luciferians, folks. They're not just like, a competing political opinion. They have a philosophy that's a little bit different. And if we're reasonable, we can talk and we can come to a consensus. No, we're way beyond coming to a consensus. We have to conquer these people or they will kill us. Now here, if you think I'm exaggerating, I'm gonna put it in sort of a comical way. But if you think I'm exaggerating, try going in any public forum, in any town council, in any city hall, in any state legislature, in any county commission meeting, in any school board meeting, in any zoning meeting, in any official capacity, anything going on in this culture whatsoever, and say something different than what these people are fixing to tell you, you'll discover quickly that yes, this insanity is the official position of the American government on all levels and all of its educational institutions, our culture, and our society. And it is upside down, like Antonio Gramsci meant for it to be.
Up is down, black is white.
Gay is good.
And you probably come from a shithole.
Look, everything in Washington has been a lie.
Okay, so how do I think about that strategic plan? Number one, it requires a statement that gay sex is morally good. Now, you may think that might be a little crazy to go out there and saying gay sex is good. But think a second. Society definitely believes that heterosexual sex is good, right? Heterosexual sex within a certain framework, marriage. I mean, you can't get more dewy-eyed and romantic in this society about how wonderful that is. Okay, and then if you're not being cynical for the moment, I think that does reflect a correct understanding that sex is often a basic building block for intimacy, and that intimacy and connections within couples and within families are integral building blocks for a healthy society.
Up is down, black is white.
Gay is good.
And you probably come from a shithole.
The Marxist who was imprisoned in Russia by Stalin because he was very critical of Stalin, because Stalin's revolution had failed. I mean, it worked in Russia, it created this state centralized communism, but it failed in the West. And Antonio Gramsci was really disappointed that it had failed in the West. So while he was in prison, he wrote a series of books called the Prison Notebooks. And in those tomes, he explained everything that has happened in the United States since the Second World War, the total deconstruction of every moral good, the total deconstruction of our society, absolutely standing it on its head. Up is down, black is white, gay is good. I mean, if you read his material and you see what has happened and the henchmen who've come along and helped, destroy things with the Saul Alinsky methods, Saul Alinsky himself, and all of that takeover of the church by the communists, by the Marxists, and this destruction of the Catholic priesthood that has made it a pederast society, and the CIA takeover of the Christian right movement, and the use of our clergy as henchmen of the government, henchmen of this Antonio Gramsci Marxist scheme. I mean, if you had read that, studied Antonio Gramsci, and seen the history of it, as I have, you would understand what you're seeing now. And you would understand Christopher Hedges' frustration observing all the way back in the 90s, in the 1990s, that we now live in a nation where doctors destroy health, where lawyers destroy justice, where universities destroy knowledge, where government destroys freedom, where the press destroys information, where religion destroys morals, and our banks destroy the economy. It's absolutely true. Everything has been turned on its head in the West. And Vladimir Putin is hated, at one of the most hated men on earth, and Trump equally hated, because Trump dares to say some things that are true. He hasn't nearly stated the truth that Vladimir Putin has stated. Let's listen. Here is what Vladimir Putin has been saying, and here is why he's hated.
Revolution Of course, it was the Rothschild hand that sparked the communist revolution in 1917, and ultimately the murder of the Tsar in 1918.
They murdered the Tsar and his family and took his gold, which was sent to Paris and to Kuhn Loeb Company in New York and the other Rothschild offices, London and so forth.
Eustace Mullins explains the satanic hand behind the Bolshevik Revolution.
It would have been too obvious if the Rothschilds of London were sending all their money over to Russia to help the communists, so they did it through their favorite patsy, which is the American government. They even formed a special firm on Wall Street in 1916 to finance the communist revolution in Russia, which was called American International Corporation. And its directors were Percy Rockefeller, the richest men in the United States, including a financier named George Herbert Walker, who just happened to be the grandfather of George Bush, our president.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
Do you think for 1 second Vladimir Putin has forgotten the satanic hand in that history? After all, it's well established who these people worship.
They were moneylenders to begin with in Austria, and they became, which they are now, the richest family in the world. They are not considered humans by the occult world. They're considered gods. They believe that gods, sons and daughters of Lucifer, dwell in these human bodies. And when the humans die, the Rothschilds die, they go into the next Rothschild born. And they're not to be treated as men, they're to be treated as gods. And believe me, they are treated as gods. Their word is absolute law.
And at this point, it's equally well established who Vladimir Putin worships. Christianity has retaken Russia by storm under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, who in a speech just a few years ago said that in the West, politics treats a family with many children as equal to a homosexual partnership. Faith in God, he says, is equal to faith in Satan. And again, do you think for 1 second Putin has forgotten the satanic hand behind the Bolshevik Revolution? I bring it up because it seems Linda Rothschild has become unhinged, as our friend Liz Crokin put it, trashing President Trump, calling the president an idiot. One wonders what she would have made of a Hillary Clinton presidency. Oh, wait, she was one of the strongest supporters of Hillary Clinton, holding multiple $100,000 per plate fundraisers for the witch. You see, it's become very clear at this point that what's happening globally is not just a clash of politics or ideologies, it's a clash of spiritual beliefs. It is, at its heart, spiritual warfare. The ideology of Rothschild Zionism versus Christianity. The age-old fight between light and dark, between Satan and Jesus Christ. And the pedophiles that are rampant in Washington, D.C., in Saudi Arabia, and around the world in places like the city of London are not lost on Vladimir Putin. In fact, in that same speech he said, and I quote, "The excesses and exaggerations of political correctness in these countries indeed leads to serious consideration for the legitimization of parties that promote the propaganda of pedophilia." Surely it's no wonder that Putin has now blocked any adoptions of Russian children into the arms of citizens of the United States, because he understands full well that the problem of Pizzagate, Washington, D.C.-centric child sex trafficking, is very real. And Vladimir Putin knows all too well that under the control of Zionism, Western nations have fallen into the trap of hiding or doing away with their Christian values. And he says, and I quote, "Christian holidays and celebrations are abolished or neutrally renamed as if one were ashamed of these Christian holidays. With this method, one hides away the deeper moral value of these celebrations." And most importantly, Putin notes, without the moral values that are rooted in Christianity and other world religions, without rules and moral values which have been formed and have been developed over millennia, people will inevitably lose their human dignity. And we think it is right and natural to defend and preserve these moral Christian values.
That was a whitewashed translation. Putin didn't say that humans would lose their human dignity. He said that they would lose what makes them human. In other words, they would become animal only. They would become brutes. Brutes. That's way more than just losing human dignity. But it is becoming brutes and becoming brutish, becoming animalistic. I mean, we look at everything that's going on that's being uncovered with all of this predator behavior, human on human, that is being discovered, and we know for a fact that it is brutishness. It is humans acting as animal only, without any regard for the soul and spirit of that corpse. The way that these people have been stealing and grooming children. And it is a serious, serious thing, folks. I mentioned in the video yesterday about the 40-year record of child sex trafficking in Britain that had been totally ignored, that had links into Parliament, members of Parliament implicated, members of the royal family implicated, and that is an absolute fact, and right on with those members of the royal family of the House of Saud in Saudi Arabia, and their ties right back to the Bush crime family and to the Clintons, and on and on. This is the reality of it. I've been saying this word, Luciferian. Most of the so-called truth tellers at the time much preferred the term Illuminati. Illuminati. In fact, Bill Cooper, his preferred word was Illuminati. And if you pushed him, he would say, Luciferian, that Luciferian and Illuminati have the same meaning, that Lucifer means illumination. So he would admit it, but he wouldn't use the word Lucifer because he did not like the theological implications of it. So all of these little pot-smoking libertarians and, posterior humping libertarians and all these agnostics and atheists and everybody else, in the truth movement, and especially the Luciferians and Satanists in the truth movement, and they are many, they all prefer that word Illuminati. But the Illuminati are Luciferian, and you had better buy into the theological implications of that, because it is a powerful evil, not some, Mason cult of people who are just greedy. This isn't about people who are just greedy, folks. This is about true, powerful evil. And I can remember when I first started using it a few years ago, and people were saying, that Luciferian, you need to leave the religious part out of this conversation. You need to leave that out. I mean, you're just going to put people off using Luciferian. And now even some of the people who have been nominal atheists, like Stefan Molyneux, and Alex Jones, he's some kind of New Age cultist. He certainly hadn't been Christian, although he's lately, having viewed so much of the Luciferianism and the demonic in his face, he has a few times professed faith in Jesus Christ. Molyneux hasn't gone that far, but he has expressed the idea that with this spiritual evil that he has witnessed, that surely there must be a spiritual good and a God. So he's no longer a nominal atheist. And even Michael LeBron of Lionel Media has been sounding more and more like someone who needs to believe that there is a God, because he is seeing, as one of my past videos showed, he is seeing this very, very deep Luciferian evil that we are facing, that will shatter your personality, that will destroy you if you don't have something good to hang on to. If you don't understand what is truth, goodness, and beauty, then you're in danger. And let me tell you, what Vladimir Putin is saying is not demonic and evil. He is pointing toward truth and goodness and beauty and protecting the innocent. And if you think that you're a Christian and you have participated in this Luciferian culture and have not protected the innocent, not even the innocent of your own family, that you have exposed them to these demonic mind controllers who have convinced them, that their anus is as good as a vagina, if you have allowed that child abuse in your home and you haven't turned the media off and you've inculcated them into this Luciferian culture, then you don't have the equipment to battle what is evil, and you can only be a victim. It requires knowledge of what is good to keep from being raped by what is evil. You have to have power to withstand it. And that power doesn't come from your own exaggerated view of your own intelligence and how awake you think you are. Some of you people are so deluded that you're waiting around for the aliens to come and save you. You know, for those benevolent aliens who are going to show up and make peace all over the earth. Some of you are really that deluded. You know, I've done videos about some of these cultists out there that are in the truth movement who are, you know, these UFOologists who believe in all of these little demons who have been coming and visiting them. And you're that deluded. You think that they care about your humanity.
What do you think about aliens?
I don't think there are any. At one time, I thought that there were, simply based upon documents that I'd seen while I was attached to the intelligence briefing team, the commander-in-chief of the Pacific Fleet. At that time, and even for many years afterwards, I did not believe that the government would use me in that way. I had devoted my whole life to government service. I had been in the Air Force, I was in the Navy, I was a river patrol boat captain in Vietnam. I had proved myself. I had combat ribbons with the V for Valor. There was no doubt of my loyalty to my country. Also, the congressional investigations into the intelligence community has revealed the existence of these programs, and there's no secret about it. It's documented. Project Artichoke, Project MK Ultra, MK Naomi. You know, I could go on and on and on all day long, and you know, if you had the time in your movie, we could lay out all the documentation, which is official government documentation, and prove beyond any shadow of doubt that it's true. But that's what it is. It's not extraterrestrials coming down. The human body cannot pass through walls and roofs, or through windows that are closed. You know, this is all the product of the imagination and people's willingness to believe something because they want it to be true.
And then there are those rational people that, you know, that you're all into science, and you think science is something magical, and that we're on the verge of AI, artificial intelligence, and all this robotics, and that the next step in human evolution is coming, and we're going to migrate into these robotic android type beings. You have already lost your human dignity. You are already beast only and just eager to become beast empowered by mechanism. How absolutely ignorant and idiotic and deluded can you be? Here is Alexander Dugin, who is Vladimir Putin's top advisor, and I think he's a philosophical advisor, and he's a religious person. I think he's a spiritual advisor. And listen to what he has to say. He's like almost screaming, "Can't you understand what you idiots in the West are doing?"
And I have a stack of headlines here where Trump warns of dangerous low in Russia relations. Trump's plan to fight ISIS with Putin isn't just futile, it's dangerous. That was in February. ISIS is now in less than 2 cities and has basically been defeated. And of course, our military 5 years ago made a deal with Russia to start defeating al-Qaeda and ISIS and countermanded Obama. So the real Russia connection is that Russia morally, with our military, said no and began to crush these Wahhabist groups. We have that. Trump will win the election. Remember all that? The bots showed it. Now the same bots show he's as popular as ever, but the polls all say he's super unpopular. As Al Gore and as Clapper and Brennan go on TV and say, there will be a coup in the next few months. We're not waiting for impeachment or this stupid grand jury they've convened in the swamp. So joining us till about 45 after is Alexander Dugin. He's a best-selling author, researcher, started one of the most influential political parties in Russia, and he wrote the best-selling book, The Fourth Political Theory, geopolitical.ru or 4pt.su, and he joins us. I really appreciate him joining us today to talk about all this and to understand why does Hollywood hate Russia so much and hate America. So I've talked to top Hollywood producers. They say it's a hatred of Christians. And why naturally do we see, as I had Steve Pachinik on a few days ago, an alliance between the United States and Russia would be common sense in the world today. The resources, the Christian culture, the rise, about to be 3 billion Muslims in just a decade. We're at 1.5 right now. The globalists have allied with the most radical forms. You can see the math of where this is going. So we should naturally be allied, but that's not what they want. They want to make Russia the #1 enemy. They want to paralyze the president, where if he doesn't accept all these Soros operations to destabilize and overthrow countries around Russia and in Russia, that he's a Russian agent. He can't even go to dinner at the G20 and sit 30 feet from Putin and wave at him. They go, oh my gosh, you waved at him. Another secret meeting at a G20 meeting. This is crazy. Now, the public isn't buying it in polls, but the deep state doesn't care. They're using it as the excuse to prepare a COG overthrow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a dangerous, dangerous time. And Trump warns this new low is dangerous for the whole planet, as we need Russia to deal with North Korea and so much more. So, Alexander, thank you so much for joining us. Alexander Dugin, geopolitical.ru. You've got the floor, my friend. Let's go through who the globalists are, what their aims are, why they hate the United States and Russia so much, and is there any way to stop them before they trigger World War III?
Hi, Alex. I'm really happy to be broadcasted in the United States because I think that your station and your channel and your heroic struggle is the unique possibility, unique momentum to say the truth that nobody wants to hear. And first of all, I think that globalists need enemy, but not the right enemy, because the right enemy of globalists are they themselves. Because they are going to destroy humanity, to exchange the humankind by artificial intelligence, by kind of cyborgs, and they try to destroy all kind of links of the humanity with its essence, and that is an essence that is the very, very negative, absolutely negative. Satanic plan, and they need, in order to keep attention elsewhere, they need some enemy, and they have designated Russia as enemy #1. It helps to them to displace attention from the real crimes they commit, and in the case of Trump, that is trying to reassert America to regain its almost lost popularity and the greatness, restore the greatness. They try to intimidate him by completely false accusation and hoaxes of Russian intervention in its elections. So the globalists, they try to control everybody. They want to divide the people and the countries, not because some of countries or regimes are wrong or commit some horrible acts, but because in the agenda of globalists, they should be exposed as such, because they serve for their creation of global world government. And Russia plays here the role of image of the enemy, of global enemy. Our president is very democratic and very reasonable, very realistic, pragmatic leader, but he refuses globalization. He refuses world government. He tries to defend to affirm, to conserve and reaffirm and strengthen Russian sovereignty. That's all. And that is why they hate us. And they try to use Russia against Trump in order to limit his liberty, to limit his freedom. That was the strategy used before of the election. And now President Trump, he is obliged to say, I have nothing to do with Russian. I didn't mean that thing, meeting Putin, and so on, and so on. That is idea to deprive American president of its freedom and liberty to create independent and sovereign politics of his own country.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's family.
All of us would like to. Are we at one of those moments in history in which there is the necessity for a new world order? A, because of what's taken place in the Middle East, the rise of different kinds of groups, and B, what's happened in Asia, meaning that there has been a shift from the West to the East.
There's a need for a new world order.
Vladimir Putin kicked the Rothschilds out of Russia.
And today that new world is struggling to be born. A world quite different from the one we've known.
We meet here at a moment of testing for Europe and the United States, and for the international order that we have worked for generations to build.
I never will forget, at a G20 meeting back, I think it was 2008, that Vladimir Putin gave his unipolar speech, his one world order speech, and announced to the oligarchs that he would not be part of it, that he would no longer be a part of their plan, that he wasn't going to accept the one world government. John McCain sat on the front row while he was speaking, shaking his head back and forth violently, and you could see him cursing at him, just literally cursing at him. That devil that is John McCain, cursing at Vladimir Putin. Why? Because Putin wouldn't go along with the Luciferian goal. And he kicked the Rothschilds out of Russia. He paid off the Rothschild debt and kicked the Rothschilds out of Russia. When are we going to get that smart?
These troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era.
Has an incredible window of opportunity to lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
Issues, but they really are issues of the construction of a new world order. That's what this is about.
Are you optimistic a global system can happen from what we've heard so far?
It could happen, and in fact is in the works.
The New World Order's invasive roots and branches keep spreading around the world. It is understood that the Rothschild banking racket was a noose tied around the neck of the Russian economy. Once the knot was tightened, the economy would struggle and choke. Early in his presidency he made a priority of uniting Russia socially, spiritually, and economically. He ordered the arrest of the Rothschild-backed oligarch Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who had made Rothschild, Henry Kissinger, and Arthur Hartman directors of the Open Russia Foundation. But President Putin has stopped them expanding into Russia. This is a major blow to their plans for world domination, and now they view him as a real threat. He's got them running scared, which is why he is degraded in the Western media at every opportunity. He was so upset with the banksters in his temple, he tipped over their tables and drove them out with a whip. A keen student of history, well versed in world affairs, the Russian president has studied the history of the world's most elusive organization and understands the central role their financial collaborators have played in fomenting the major international conflicts of the 20th century.
There also exists an extraordinary opportunity to form for the first time in history a truly global society.
They do not own the world, and they do not have carte blanche to do whatever they want. If we do not challenge them, there will be other issues. We will not be bullied by them. The reality is that Putin is leading us towards a multipolar world, far from the one government, one religion future plotted by the New World Order.
Я вас прошу меня все-таки выслушать и довести до ваших зрителей и слушателей то, что я сейчас скажу. Вот мы дискутируем с нашими американскими друзьями и партнерами, причем с представителями государства, и говорим, когда они нам предъявляют претензии по поводу того, что какие-то русские вмешивались в выборы в США, мы им говорим, совсем недавно, вот, на очень высоком уровне, но вы-то постоянно вмешиваетесь в нашу политическую жизнь. Вы представляете, они даже этого не отрицают. Что же они нам ответили вот последний раз? Они нам сказали, да, мы вмешиваемся, но мы имеем право на это, потому что мы несем демократию. А вы нет, вы не можете. Вы считаете это цивилизованная, современная постановка вопросов в международных делах? На уровне правительства Российской Федерации, на уровне президента Российской Федерации. Никогда никакого вмешательства во внутренние политические процессы в Соединенных Штатах не было и нет. Вот недавно президент Трамп сказал очень правильную вещь. Он сказал, что если Россия ставила перед собой цель посеять хаос, то она вот этого добилась. Но это произошло не из-за нашего вмешательства, а из-за вашей политической системы, внутренней борьбы, неразберихи и противоречий. Россия здесь совершенно ни при чем. Абсолютно. Мы не имеем к этому никакого отношения. У себя разберитесь сначала. А вот такая постановка вопроса, о которой я сказал, что вы имеете право вмешиваться везде, потому что вы несете кругом демократию, а мы нет, она и порождает конфликты. Надо с уважением относиться к партнерам, и тогда будут с уважением относиться к вам. Я могу вам тогда другой вопрос. А зачем вы способствовали государственному перевороту на Украине? Ну зачем вы это сделали? Вы прямо публично признали, что истратили на это миллиарды долларов. Публично же, ваши официальные лица об этом сказали. Зачем поддерживать госперевороты? Вооруженную борьбу поддерживать на территории других стран? Зачем вы поставили ракетные системы вдоль наших границ?
And that's the trillion-dollar question. You know, why do we support all of these military coups around the world? Why do we act like empire? Come on, it's time for a change. It's time for a real change. It's time to take the teeth out of these globalist oligarchs, these beasts who are chewing up the world. It is time to stop them. Whatever it takes to stop them, it is time to stop them. And yeah, let's use a really ugly phrase. We need a new world order, one that's not Luciferian, one that's not controlled by Luciferians.
Bye.